Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm your boy Flash Hazardous, and today we continue with our first impressions and overview of the class update beta, which released a day or two ago. Today we're going to be spending time looking at the Riotguard class. Now I'm going to approach this one slightly different, lads. Whereas with the Chrono review, it was an almost entirely different set of abilities, synergies, and I'd say the classes were overall quite polished. Riotguards are still a work in progress with some familiar elements across their kits. So we'll manage this one a bit differently, and we'll do it by exception, as in we'll focus as to what has changed rather than working through all of the abilities again. Now, if we're thinking big themes here, in my last video, I dubbed the new Chrono subclasses as the Fusion Face Wreckers, as their identity fully shifted to a close range, in your grill playstyle. Now, if I was to apply a similar theme for the Riotguards, I would call this the Riotguard Revolution. Now, this recognizes the fact that there have been changes across all of the classes. Some of them not so drastic, but some of them really drastic. And I think, and we'll get into it, that some of those really drastic changes, particularly to the base Riotguard class, might just be pushing the player base to a Riot and Revolution back to what it was pre-patch. But we'll do a little bit of a review. I'll let you guys see what those differences are, and you can make up your own minds. Now, before we jump into looking at the different Riotguard classes, I just want to make a quick distinction. It's a little bit confusing talking about shields in Synthetik 2, especially when it comes to Riotguard. So these are physical shields. We'll call them Riotshields. But then you also have resource shields, as in the blue bar, and we'll call those blue shields, just so we can keep that distinction going. Now, again, broad themes for the Riotguard. There seems to be a bit of a shift towards the Riotguard class being a shieldless, a blue shieldless class as a rule, with the Disruptor now being the only variant with blue shields. That's a big shock, yes. Riotguard is shieldless, we'll talk about that. Talk about it last probably, because it's most of the changes. But there seems to be a shift there, and that's me recognizing the fact that Riotguards are armor-based, right? Armor-based, less or no shielding. It kind of makes sense, but we'll see how that plays out in the individual classes. Another big, broad theme is Methodone B, which was an ability that allowed you to replenish your health. That is completely gone as an activatable ability. So Disruptor and Riotguard, it never used to be on the Guard Judge, but Disruptor and Riotguard do not have Methodone B anymore. We'll talk about that more in the individual sections, but this is a big overall hit to the class survivability. And it is especially bad on Riotguard. And again, we'll talk about it because he no longer has blue shields. So that's some big themes. I thought we would do this one in reverse order, mostly around the number of changes that have been made. So we'll start with Riotguard Disruptor, and much like yesterday's episode, we'll run through each of the classes, see what's changed. We'll jump into a game, test it out a little bit, come back, move to the next class, and so forward. So let's start with the Disruptor class. Now, full disclosure on my end, lads, I have literally never played a full run with a Disruptor. I don't like his kind of corner control, corner hugging philosophy. The trophy system kind of sitting there, dealing damage for you, you're holding the corner. I don't like that kind of a play style. I also didn't like that the Riotshield would only activate once you've lost all your blue shields. It really felt a little bit funny, because it was almost that the shield was secondary once you lost your blue shield. So your Riotshield was secondary to your blue shields being lost. It was just a little bit of a weird class. Now, what I do know about Disruptor pre-patch was it was a strong area and corner control character, should we say subclass, with shock and lightning effects, particularly built into the trophy system. So let's actually see what's changed here. So first big change, I've said this already, Methodone B is gone. No replacement for it. Therefore, a direct hit to survivability. That is a direct nerf across the board for Riotguards. A couple of the other changes. The mobility ability used to be dash and bash, which almost used to be the cheap version of dash. Slightly lower cooldown, but had no extra effects. Now the Riotguard Disruptor has the Quickdraw dash, which is the other variant of mobility within the Riotguard subclasses. And really the only change here is that it instantly reloads one shot. The rest of the other effects, which is the shield bash when the Riotshield is up, that's pretty much the same. It causing a stun, that's pretty much the same. So really, it's just a slight change, and he now gets the instantly reloaded shot when he activates the mobility. The shock trophy system, pretty much the centerpiece of the entire class. You place this down, it causes shot lightning damage, applies shocked, which is one of the real synergies around the class. With shocked, it prevents shields from recharging, and if you apply another shock effect, it ends up ultimately stunning the target. So that's pretty much remained unchanged, and no real difference there. On the shock Masterkey, so this is pretty much the same as it was, except for now the cooldown has been drastically reduced. It used to be 40 seconds, it is now 16, but the damage has also been reduced to balance that out. There seems to be a funny effect as well, where it doesn't have a visual effect in the game. I'll show that to you guys. But shock key changes, use it more often, slightly less damage, so you get more of a chance to apply that shocked effect twice. So trophy system into shock Masterkey. Now with the focus perks, nothing really much to say here, lads. Exactly the same as it used to be before. You have multi-dimensional traps. Traps and constructs gain 30% chance to cast again, can trigger upon recast. And you have perfect timing. If you're not firing for 3 seconds, you get increased damage, critical chance, and that lasts for 3 seconds. So nothing's changed there. The big change to the class is Lightning Strike. So if you remember Asgren, as I like to call him, Assault Grenadier, he has a commando ability, which effectively just keeps cooling down. It's a perk, it cools down. When it's on cooldown, if you walk near an enemy, it punches them in the face. Or in, I think it was a buttstock hit with the gun with that Assault Grenadier. So you now have Lightning Strike with the Riotguard Disruptor. Gives you a shocking punch, automatically strikes in melee damage, and deals and applies shock. Another source of shock damage, another chance to get your enemies stunned. Another really interesting synergy is that if you hit your shock sentry, it causes an area of effect discharge, deals shock damage in an area. So effectively you deal the damage to the sentry, it does a AoE, more shock damage. I felt like this played out a bit wonkily in practice. It didn't really work out all that well. I'll show you how it works, but it's just a little bit of a synergy with the shock trophy system. Now, what Lightning Strike does mean is that the class in general is a little more aggressive, a little more offensive, and we'll see that in the play. So now not only can you corner camp area control, but if anyone gets too close to you, you punch them in the face. If they start chunking your armor, or so your blue shields down, you activate your Bulwark, your shield is up, and then you can do the quick dash into their face for extra damage. So really it's like, don't come at me, bro. Don't come into my area. If you do, I'll absolutely clock you. But what's great as well is that it's also a lot more offensive ability, a lot more aggression that you can bring into your playstyle with the Disruptor now. I think for crowd controller, I believe that's remained exactly the same. I do think, so ultimately it's just synergistic with the class. It's stronger negative status effects and longer duration negative status effects. That's directly your shock effect pretty much. So obviously synergizes with that. Traps can critically activate with 2 times power. I don't know whether shock trophy system is a trap. I'm guessing it is, but crowd controller pretty much remains unchanged. I think that's the case. Right. So what's the class now? Still very strong in area denial and corner control, but now able to play more aggressively. Some interesting synergy with the punch and the shock trophy. A little bit clunky, but we'll test that out. I think there's plenty of space for development in this class because mastery the class still doesn't have a mastery. So that's an indication that this is still work in progress. And it'd be interesting to see what the community and Shrike come up with in terms of that mastery ability. Be nice to see it based around some sort of a summoner build, I would say. I mean, you already have the shock trophy. You already have this trap effect down here. It'd be nice to see a bit of a summoning build around the Riotguard Disruptor, if you ask me. But we'll see where that ends up at the end of the beta. Another funny thing that I just wanted to note as well is that it's actually quite... it's quite funny, and we might see it when I go into a run. But the shock trophy system just ends up attracting an enormous amount of aggro. And I said this in I guess, one of my runs, when I ended up getting a whole bunch of summons, like K9 units and Guardians. The value of summons is pretty much in the fact that they just take aggro away from you. I mean, that is, in my mind, no matter what the summon does at that point, it's winning because it's taking aggro and fire and damage away from you, right? And taking it on itself. So, would be nice to see a bit of a summoner build going, and that shock trophy system is something that you might end up seeing, which is quite funny. We'll see if we can jump into a run. Right now, we'll stick to 175%. I think I'm going to just pick up the P20 Compact here. I'm going to jump into a run and see how this bad boy operates. If I slow my speech a little bit, boys, it is late. I am sorry. I might fail a little bit in the gameplay as well. But I am going to try and get this patch out for you guys as quickly as possible. I think we're going to ignore the cursed item box. I just want to play with the base class. So let's stuff around with this a bit. Get the shock trophy system out. Let's put that down here right next to these boys. We can punch it. See, it's doing damage to them. Let's get the shock and Masterkey. We can't do that. Sorry. The shock Masterkey. Let's go get these bad boys down here. Walk up to them. Boom. That's how it hits them. And hit that over there. So that whole corner camping style, you place it over here. He can't do anything. He's focusing that down. You just go around and you shoot him. Again, it's picking up aggro. And let's see how much aggro it picks up. Look at that. Basically, the entire squad went after that. And that one over there, right? Completely ignoring me. Like I said, guys, that is the value of having summons, right? Just in the fact that they take away the aggro from your class. So, not too much more to really talk about. So let's get another one of these down. We'll pop it down here. They'll start shooting at it. Get up there. Hit him in the face with that ability. Get up in their face again. We'll walk up here. Smash that. And you can see that's the effect of the lightning strike. Very quick 2-second cooldown. It gives you that really awesome ability to rush into a group of enemies. Like so. Deal damage. Place that down. Takes aggro. You can walk away. Don't need to worry about it. Keep taking it. Wait for your cooldowns to hit again. Get back in. Punch him in the face. And there you go. I really think that's pretty much it, lads. Not that much of a change. The extra aggression is welcome. And I actually think I am going to start taking the Riotguard, or should I say the Riotguard Disruptor out for a few more runs. Ooh, P20 duels. Wow, boys, you know how I feel about these awesome P20 duels. Absolutely ridiculous weapons. Anyway, let's stop mucking around here. Let's get our shields down, just so we can show you how the... now we got our shields up. We go in there. Hit that. Hit that. Pretty much just annihilate them, right? Anyone gets too close, you smash them in the face with the lightning strike. Anyone gets even closer than that, starts taking your shields down, or your blue shields, you take out your Riotshield and you can charge them in the face. Obviously, you have the stun ability at the end of that as well with Quickdraw Dash. Really nice. Overall, that's the class, lads. Not much more to show you here. So I am going to quit out of this one, and we're going to move right on to the next class, which is the Guard Judge. Right, so we'll pop back into the lobby here. I'm just going to make sure that we're still recording. Yes, we are. Lads, I'd like to know if you like the new audio. I have tinkered around with my audio settings. It'd be good to get some feedback from you guys if you're listening as to whether the audio sounds good. I've tried to modulate some of the sounds out, and I think it's a lot cleaner than before. We're good to get some of your feedback on that. Right, so moving on very swiftly onto the Guard Judge. Now, what has changed on the Guard Judge? Maybe we should start by explaining the Guard Judge beforehand. Previously, pre-patch, what it was Guard Judge, 4,000 health, had a lifesteal effect that would ultimately a passive lifesteal effect that would apply lifesteal for every shot you take, every damage instance you apply with your, I think it was just with your weapons. And then had kind of like a utility ability that will give you more lifesteal. Good class, very weak early on, very strong later on, but there has been quite a few changes now. And what are those changes? So first of all, Hot Shot has been removed as a, I think it was an ability or a, I think Hot Shot was a perk. So Hot Shot has been removed as a perk, and what's actually happened is they've shifted that into a focus perk. So there you have it. Hot Shot is now a focus perk. Every 5 weak point hits, you gain 1 Hot Shot. The next shot deals burning damage, also increases your weak point damage by 50%. I'm not sure if that was exactly the previous iteration of Hot Shot. I think it was slightly different. But, I mean, right now, it is a focus perk and a different way to select it. What else has changed? I think Quickdraw Dash has remained the same, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I'm going to take a second just to check that for you boys. I'll be back. And we're back, lads. So Quickdraw Dash is exactly the same as it was before. Has not changed. Same ability as with the Disruptor Riotguard, in that you instantly reload 1 shot. And again, when your Riotshield is up, you do apply a stun when you dash into enemies. We haven't talked much about Quickdraw Dash in general, but I mean, obviously this ability favors lower magazine size weapons that are harder hitting, because the ability just to get 1 extra round back is really great. But that hasn't changed, so I didn't want to spend too much time focusing on that. I mean, that's pretty much common knowledge at this point. The other thing I wanted to say was that the change to Hot Shot is slightly different to what it was before, whereas Hot Shot used to be an active reload effect that would apply burning to the next shot. The actual focus perk is a little stronger and weaker in some ways. I mean, every 5 weak point hits, it really just depends on the size of your magazine, whether the old Hot Shot is better than the new one. Lower magazine, I'd say the old Hot Shot was better, because you would actively reload into a Hot Shot bullet. Whereas for this one, you have to hit the 5 weak point hits. You apply the burning, but also you get that increased weak point damage by 50% on that Hot Shot. So it is slightly stronger, I would say, but has instances where it wouldn't be nearly as strong. So, like I said, Quickdraw Dash has not changed. We talked about Hot Shot already. Now, Stabilized Bulwark is interesting. Stabilized Bulwark used to be a 25-second cooldown effect with almost none of those benefits that you see down there at the moment. So now it's lower cooldown, it's 10 seconds of effect, so practically you are running it, or you're able to run it 50% of the time on your runs, right? And maybe even more if you start getting some of the ability upgrades. It applies 80 armor, guys. 80 directional armor. That is massive. And on top of all of that, so reduced cooldown, decent length, massive amounts of armor, the first 3 seconds effectively make you a gunslinger. So you have extreme recoil control and increased weak point damage by 40%. And that's going to compound once we start looking at the stabilization, which is kind of the synergy perk. But that is bonkers. That is really strong. 80 armor? Really, really strong. Moving on, Orbital Authority, how has that changed? Well, you see down there it says orbital kills increase power by 1%. It used to be that it applies double damage to elites. So that's changed, meaning the more you use your Orbital Authority, the more it scales over the course of a run, the more damage it does, and ultimately the more useful it is. I do also believe they've changed the arc or the speed of throwing on the Orbital Authority, We'll see how that works out. I haven't really tested that, but that should be a big help, because one of the biggest problems with Orbital Authority in the past was just that really wonky and slow arc of the throw. I mean, usually you would throw it to the ground, enemies would walk right past it because it would have to land and then activate. Let's see how that's changed and whether it's now a lot more useful. I do like the fact that it's got built-in scaling without having to actually apply any sort of upgrades to it, although 1% is quite low. What else is gone from the active abilities? Well, Life Absorb is now a passive. It used to be an active ability that gave you more, so it used to be a utility ability that gave you more lifesteal. Now it is just a flat passive, so still completely removes your shields, still passively grants lifesteal, and I do love this, lads. You have to activate it to apply to all friendlies for a time and increase the effect. I love the way that's moved to activate, but now it's a perk. So how do you activate it? Either that's a Shrike Oversight or an Epic Shrike Troll, because you're never really going to end up activating it, are you? So that's changed. That's quite significant. So you no longer have to use an additional utility ability for additional lifesteal. I don't know whether this has changed the percentage at all, and that's something that we're going to have to kind of test and see. But that is a decent change, because ultimately no one really liked having a utility that just gave you more of what you had already. Part of the reason why utility abilities were quite boring and why a lot of people just never used them in the past. So good to see this as a flat passive now. Makes sense. It is in the Guard Judge's realm of what it used to do before. So what else is big here? High Order hasn't changed. Not going to touch on that. The funny thing about High Order is I've never actually had it activate. I've never gotten the Honorary Revolver. I don't know if I've just never fought enough elites, but if that was broken, hopefully it is fixed. But it hasn't changed at all in terms of how it operates or its different, I guess, graduated effects. Now, moving on to Stabilization. When the Riotshield is up, you decrease recoil by 40%, you increase weak point damage by 40%, and you reduce shield dash cooldown by 25%, which effectively makes that a 3-second ability. Now, that is bonkers. So basically what you're looking at Guard Judge now, first of all, he looks incredible on paper, right? Just an incredibly strong class on paper. But at the same time, you have your shield up at 50%. You basically have your shield up 50% of the time. You're always going to want to have your shield up. And during that 50% time up for the shield, you are just absolutely godlike. Reduce recoil, higher weak point damage, quicker dash, 80 directional armor, and then the 3 seconds having that extreme recoil control. It's really strong. Basically a class that's now completely based around having the shield up, although the shield is a cooldown ability. So you do have to manage it, but very, very, very strong on paper. We're going to see how it plays just in 1 second. Mastery, there is no Mastery Perk at the moment, so more space for evolution for this class, which is quite nice. And we'll see what they come up with. Again, Shrike in the community, what we come up with on this one. Interesting to see how we're gonna kind of tie this all together, which is kind of a high health lifesteal, but really focused on the shield kind of class. What else? I don't think anything's changed on the focus perks, apart from what I mentioned on Hotshot. I think you still have your usual Calm. Yeah, I'm going to stick onto Hotshot because it is new. And I think that's pretty much it, lads. There's nothing else I want to show here. I think it's about time we jumped into a game for a very quick run. I am going to take the heavy pistol because I do love an orange gun on a blue body. Let's jump right into a game and just play around. I don't think apart from having the shield up most of the time, I don't think we'll feel that much of a difference on this class. So let's see how he plays with the shield up, because that's definitely the most interesting part of what's changed. We still have the wonky animation on start, where the shield's kind of inside the character model, which is quite funny. All right, let's go. So let's get our stable. Well, let's first see how the Orbital Authority works. Get one of those out. Yeah, that definitely feels a little bit faster. Or does it actually? Ooh, this gun's got quite a bit of recoil. Anyway, get that back up. Okay, we got him down now. Okay, let's try and activate our bulwark here. I'm gonna put it up. We should get a massive amount of recoil control here. Yeah, look at that. Like basically a laser, lads. And look at that visual effect as well. Look at that visual effect. That's pretty cool, actually. I've never seen that before. It's a very nice visual indicator that the shield is up. And actually something that I think is pretty cool, because there was problems in the past, at least I've seen it, I've felt it before, where you don't... I mean, the only way you'd really know you're out of your shield animation is through the fact that you're moving a little bit faster. Now it's really apparent that Bulwark gives you that benefit. So let's try that again. We're going to hit the Bulwark, and we're just going to shoot like madmen for 3 seconds. Look at that, boys. Immense amounts of just control over those shots. I was straight up spamming the pistol there, and there was almost no deviation and recoil on it. Oh, I got the battle hymn. That's pretty funny. It's just... let's just wreck some boys here, shall we? There we go. I don't really know whether we've seen any sort of a passive lifesteal gain over here. I'm assuming that there has been some change now that the lifesteals moved to a complete passive, but I won't be able to tell you whether there's a difference there. Let's get this back out of here. Movement speed is very slow, by the way. And I think there's a visual effect for when you have the 3 seconds, like the 3-second gunslinger effect, actually. And there we had, I think there we had the hotshot ability activate as well. We had the hotshot ability there for a second. Let's try and get a couple of these shots in here. There we go. Okay, let's keep moving here. Right, let's use the Orbital Authority again. Get it again. That's 2 kills there. I don't know how that ended up all the way back there. Let's get this up. You see 3 seconds of the hotshot. 3 seconds of the Gunslinger ability. You can see because your shield is red. Very nice. Big issue in general in Synthetik 2 is that there's a heck of a lot of... well, there's a lot of difficulty in identifying temporary status effects when they're on you. So I'm all for things like this with the red, where, okay, I've got a red shield. That means I've got my gunslinger ability. Now I've got a white shield. That means I've got this, that I've got my shield up. Okay, now it's gone, and I can move on. So I think we have a hot shot ready here. Let's get a shot over there and see how that operates. Did that operate? I don't think it did. Anyway, let's get another Orbital Authority out. Oh, how did that work? There we go. Is that going to get kills? Yes, it is. So is that going to give us extra power? I can't see. Okay, so apparently this is meant to give us power every time we get kills with it, right? But for some reason, I can't see the increase in power level on the Orbital Authority. That's either just a tooltip bug. And maybe we can see with the tooltips. No, we can't. There's nothing on tooltips for that. Maybe it's just a tooltip bubble, or maybe actually we're not seeing that increased power. Get that kill over there. Oh, I do love the fact that that works so well with having an ultimate battle him out. I'm having no problem sustaining over here, which is pretty cool. No issues with sustain. Get that reloaded. So I'm pretty comfortably keeping my health high. So looks like survivability is still not that much of an issue on the guard judge if you can just manage it correctly. So that's pretty good. And I think that's pretty much the new class, lads. There's nothing really else to show you here, to be honest. So I think we're going to jump right back out. No, it's got to quit. And now we are going to move on to the class that's seen the most changes, lads. Let's move on to our good old Riotguard. So Riotguard has seen the most extensive changes, and my first reaction is that it's a little bit too much of a swing. So we talked about the removal of Methadone as an ability that you can activate, which severely decreases survivability. Well, I wouldn't say severely, but it definitely decreases your survivability across a run. But now I'm going to tell you that and I should move on to the Riotguard, shouldn't I? Now I'm going to tell you that the Riotguard has not only lost his shields, his blue shields, but he has also, and get this, he has also remained at 3,000 health. So, same health pool, no more blue shield, and no more Methadone. That's a big swing in the opposite direction for the Riotguard. And this is what I think a lot of people are going to be rubbed up the wrong way about. Luckily, obviously, guys, this is still a beta. If you don't like it, first of all, do test it. And we are going to go for a test run because there are some redeeming qualities to this class. A lot of redeeming qualities, actually, which I'm going to talk about. But definitely, survivability is far less than what it used to be. Right, so where do we start with the changes? Okay, so starting with what has been removed, we talked about Methodone B. Whilst we don't have Methodone B as something that's an activatable ability, it has been baked into a new perk called Stimulus. So there you'll see on Stimulus, once you drop below 50%, you trigger a Methadone effect. That's on a 60-second cooldown. I wouldn't be relying on that a heck of a lot, but it's there. It is some survivability that's replaced the Methadone that you used to be able to activate. So that's the big change. And obviously there you see the biggest change to the classes. Class has no shields and kills grant healing. Now, this is a big one. Now, if you guys remember Guard Judge has a life absorb ability that grants Lifesteal. Lifesteal is different to health gain on kill for Riotguard. What is that difference? Well, it's a lot easier for the Guard Judge because he's able to shoot, and every time he applies damage to an enemy, he gets healing, right? That's got scaling potential as well, because the more damage you deal, the more health you get. It's part of the reason why Riotguard always ended up being quite strong late game, because once you're dealing huge amounts of damage with your weapons, you're just keeping your health at a high rate, at a high level the entire time. You're not even worried anymore about enemies shooting at you. Health on kill is completely different. Now, I believe the health on kill is 100. It's a conditional health gain that requires you to kill enemies. That's very different, and it's a much higher bar to meet before you get that health. Okay? It's a conditional effect. And it's applied obviously per kill. So it's quite funny because then you're looking at Guard Judge and you're looking at Riotguard. Riotguard's got the lower health pool. He's got the worst shield, and we'll talk about that in terms of the armor that it gives as well. But also he's got the weaker health gain ability, right? That's a little bit strange to have taken that much of a directional move on the Riotguard. And you will see that with the impact on the survivability when we actually play. The other really funny thing about kills granting healing is that there seems to be some sort of baked-in cooldown effect on kills granting the heal. So, sorry, there's a cooldown effect on healing on kills. And what I mean by that is, if you run into a very big group of enemies and you kill, say, 5 enemies at once, I have not seen 500 health come back to me. In fact, I've only seen the 100, which makes me think that it, obviously, once you've killed one unit, it recognizes the kill, it grants you the 100 health, and then any other units you kill at the same time, because it's on a cooldown, and I think it's a very short one, you don't end up having the effect of the extra 100 health for every extra unit you kill. Very strange. Again, negatively impacting on survivability. So that's a really big change. The other big change is that Manstopper is now gone as an ability and actually is now a focus perk, right? So it used to stun, but now it has a new stagger effect. So if you guys remember yesterday with the chrono classes, there's a new stagger effect. It reduces enemy movement speed and fire rate by 50%. Keep this in mind, lads, because we'll touch back on it a little bit later. I don't like the fact that Riotguard has a mixing now of stagger and stun effects. It all gets quite confusing. I'll show you that with the rest of the kit, but keep that in mind for now because we're not going to dive into the detail of that at this moment. I've never been a fan, by the way, of Manstopper, neither in its current Focus Perk rendition nor in what it was before. And that's because pretty much it's one Manstopper shot per reload and you deal 300 bonus damage. You have, whilst that 300 bonus damage will be quite significant at the start of the game, once you get to higher terror levels, enemy health scaling is so high that 300 bonus damage on one shot is really not going to end up helping you. Anyway, that's my, that might play out differently, maybe with some sniper rifles, maybe differently, but I just feel like it's a little bit of an underwhelming Focus Perk in general, just like the ability or the original perk was. We've also seen the removal of the Fortress Focus Perk. This is a perk that used to give you 1 plating for every 600 damage taken in a single hit. That's gone now, as far as you can see. Confiscate has also changed. It used to be a 2-second critical chance and increased speed. And now it's been changed that on pickup, you actually reduce your ability cooldowns by 3 seconds. So Confiscate is really strange. I don't quite like it as a Focus Perk again, because I feel like picking up stuff on the ground mid-fight is more accidental than deliberate. And it's not really something you build a playstyle around. Now, yes, pickups do have 50% stronger effect power, and you do get ability cooldowns. But again, I'm not running around scavenging in a fight. I'm accidentally picking stuff up, and I don't like a Focus Perk linked to an accidental behavior on your part in the middle of a game. Riotguard also now has, and this is another big change, and actually something that might redeem the class a little bit, is the Calm Focus Perk. This only used to be available to the Guard Judge before. Now, this is direct survivability in that when you're below 20 heat, which obviously is going to be quite often, you gain a health regeneration, increased accuracy, and stability. That's great for the Riotguard because of the lack of survivability in taking away Methadone and the shields, the blue shields. So actually, when we do this run, I am gonna pick Calm because it's gonna make it a little bit easier for me to survive. You'll see the problems with survivability. Right. So that's a whole raft of changes. What else has changed? So the vanilla dash and bash has been replaced with charge. This is a 5-second cooldown, so it is a little bit longer than some of the others, which are 4 seconds, like the Quickdraw dash. It does cause a shockwave at the end. Now, this is different, right? So the interesting thing here is that the shockwave doesn't appear to apply when you dash in without the shield. But when you dash in with the shield, there does appear to be a shockwave effect. What's also weird about this is that the shockwave effect appears to apply stagger. I might be completely wrong on this. There's a lot of interaction with this class, and you'll see with the weird combo ability that they've built in with the Mastery. But there's a whole bunch of combo potential for this class. So I'm not sure quite what I'm seeing when I'm applying effects onto enemies, but it does seem like charge. When you have your shields up, you are able to... when you have your shields up on charge, you are able to apply shockwave at the end, and that does appear to be a stagger effect. That's 50% movement speed reduction and fire rate, rather than a stun effect. We'll talk again about this mix of stagger and stun and why I don't like it a little bit later. Right, another change, right? So we're just running through the changes here, lads. Moving on to something else, and another huge change for the class. Shield Wall is a complete rework. First of all, this ability used to be called Hold the Line. It used to, much like in the same way that the Guard Judge does now, it used to raise your shields for a certain period of time and used to be on a cooldown. It also used to drop tear gas. That's what the Riotguard class used to do, is drop tear gas. Weird anti-synergy, we'll talk about this. But the biggest change, apart from those two, right, already, is that it is now a toggleable ability. That is absolutely massive. Now you can toggle whenever you want to bring your shield up. When you have your shield up, you have increased armor, you reduce your movement speed by 25%, You increase your weapon deviation by 7. Now, this is really interesting, right? Because whereas for the Guard Judge, you have a whole bunch of positive effects because you apply you put up your shield as an ability that's timed on a cooldown. The fact that you can toggle your shield wall, I guess the way they've balanced that out is by reducing the amount of armor and giving you a few penalties rather than benefits. Another really cool effect, and I really like this, using the shields again will shield bash an enemy while they're near. It does apply the stagger effect, and if no enemy is near, you just stow away the shield. Now, I don't like it when there's multiple actions that are tied to the right click in this case, and I don't like the fact that one of them is tied to enemy proximity. I mean, you could feasibly imagine a scenario where you put up your shield wall and you want to take it down so you regain your mobility to run away, but because you have enemies nearby, you end up smashing them with your shield with the stagger effect. So you do a shield bash instead. But actually, when you start playing around with it, and we'll do that in the game, actually works out pretty darn well. Sorry, lads. Just want to check if I'm still recording. Yes, I am. We are in 40 minutes as well. So I'm going to try rush this through. So that's some really big changes. I love the fact that it's toggleable. I think that's great. It adds a whole new flavor and ability and a way to play the Riotguard. I love the fact that they've removed the tear gas. Tear gas never made sense in its previous rendition. So you would put up the shield and throw it like a tear gas grenade. Typically, when you put up your shield, you want to shield bash, you want to dash in, but you would end up being hurt by your own tear gas. And sometimes you'd want to deal tear gas damage to enemies, but you'd have to put your shield up and sacrifice on movement speed. So complete antithesis of an ability before. Now it's a lot better, and I love the toggle ability. I love the fact that they've removed the tear gas, which was just something that never melded well with the shield in the first place. So that's another big change, lads. Battlecry module. I'll let you know, boys. You can breathe a deep sigh of relief. Nothing has changed on Battlecry module. It still applies a stun effect. Same cooldown. I don't know if they've changed the damage, but it appears to be one of the few untouched aspects of this class. Right, so what else has changed? I think we've talked about all the focus perks, so we're not going to touch on those. We've touched on Stimulus. Next is Demoralize. Now, again, complete change to what it used to be before. This used to be a perk called Team Player. I used to think Team Player was a little bit of a garbage perk. It did provide you with passive armor, but what it did was provide passive increased healing and armor to summons, and provided a chance for you to get 2 summons instead of 1. So ultimately, it was something that was meant to focus the Riotguard around a summoning kind of build. I think it was too wide in general. At that point, we talked about moving from 1+3 in terms of abilities to 1+2 in the previous video. It was a bit too wide. I didn't like it. I didn't think it made a lot of sense. It was a bit of a weak perk for the class to have. So that's been completely replaced with something called Demoralize, which now synergizes and plays a lot more closely with the shield wall. So destroying a target with the shield bash, so that's, I'm assuming, either the charge or the shield wall, and then right-clicking next to enemies, right? Because that's a bash. Yes, it is. So destroying a target with shield bash applies a fire rate and movement speed slow to near enemies, and shield bash deals 500 bonus damage to stunned targets. So there's a clear synergy here with Battlecry module in that you dash in, you hit your Battlecry module, and then you get your shield wall up, and you apply Demoralize, and you apply an extra 500 damage to stun targets. It's very, very powerful. But what's really strange again, and again, guys, I'm talking about this weird melding in Riotguard of the stagger effect and the stun effect. If you read that top one, applies a fire rate and movement speed slow to near enemies. Isn't that stagger? In which case, why don't we call it stagger? So we could at least synergize a bit around that. Anyway, another weird example of how this class seems to be a little bit confused between stagger and stun. Next is on to synergy. Pretty straightforward. I think the synergy perk is great. I like it across all classes that have it. I mean, it affects SMGs and shotguns. Synergy perks tend to push you towards a specific set of items, and we saw that with the Chronos. But for Riotguard, it pushes you to certain sets of items and certain sets of weapons. In the Riotguard's case, it doesn't seem to apply to any items, but it does affect SMGs and shotguns, which is a natural fit for the Riotguard, which does want to be in the enemy face, dealing damage, shield bashing, although yes, you are going to experience some of that difficulty with survivability, but I think that makes sense for the class itself. I like it. There is a little bit of a criticism around the synergy in that for SMGs, I don't see how Manstopper interacts really well with SMGs. SMGs typically have higher clip counts. Manstopper is a single attack for a stagger and 300 bonus damage. Don't know how that really works. Don't like it too much with an SMG. That's why I don't like Manstopper in general. But anyway, that's just a bit of a nitpick over there. And then finally moving on to... Sorry, I think we did touch on it. Critical chance, movement accuracy, and fire rate. Pretty simple, pretty nice to have for SMGs and shotguns. Moving on to Mastery. It increases any damage to stunned by 35% and indirectly enables varied ability combos. Now let's break that down very quickly. So first of all, the Mastery gives you increased damage to stunned. This is where I criticize this weird confused mix in the class between stagger and stun. There is a very clear benefit to having enemies stunned and being able to hit them for higher damage because they are stunned. The Mastery pushes you towards using things like a Battlecry module, right? That makes a whole bunch of sense. But, and this is, and obviously, yeah, and this is a very big but, your Mastery, your Mastery seems to push you towards stunned, but you have a whole bunch of stagger effects sprinkled throughout the entire kit. You have it in your shockwave. I mean, that's unconfirmed, but I think the shockwave in this case provides a stagger. You have it in your shield wall, provides a stagger, not a stun. Battlecry provides stun. And then again, with your Demoralize, with that destroying a target with shield bash, that fire rate and movement speed slow, that appears to be another stagger. So, I gotta say, quite confused, and I don't like it. I'd prefer for this class to be more focused around stuns so that Mastery can actually have an impact, right? Because right now it's on Battlecry only, as far as I can see. Now, the other really cool part about Riotguard is that this explanation at the bottom indirectly enables varied ability combos is actually quite misleading in that there is a whole raft of combos that you can apply. I've noted some of these down from the Discord. So for example, if you were to use Manstopper or Bash and Battlecry, you get a longer Battlecry. If you were to use Manstopper, the Focus Perk effect, plus Bash, you also get a stun. If you were to use a Bash and Manstopper, you also get a stun. Another example, if you use your Battlecry and then you dash, you get 30% bonus damage on your dash. So, a very combo-heavy class is what's coming out of the Riotguard. And that certainly plays into this ability now to shield bash basically every 3 seconds once you got the shield wall up. It's really interesting. It definitely adds a skill ceiling, but my worry is that there's a heck of a lot going on with those combos. I think that the list that I only gave you 3 or 4 of them, there's like a list of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 abilities or 8 combos that trigger certain effects. I just think in the end, you're likely going to just not even pay attention to those, and you just end up activating them completely, like, randomly because you're using certain combinations of abilities. I mean, I do have to play around with it. I do think, you know, it does give the more skilled player a higher skill ceiling to kind of strive towards. But I don't know. I think it'll most likely be benefits that you never know apply because you're not really paying attention to the combination of what you're using. And I think certain combos in the way you approach enemies, certain rotations on your abilities will naturally favor certain combinations as it is. But it's a nice add. It certainly makes Riotguard a really combo-heavy based class. And I think this is part of the reason why Shrike ended up reducing the survivability, is that you'll see when we jump into the run, there's just a massive amount of damage this class can do. And if it was too survivable in those ranges, it might just end up being too OP. So like I said, amazing combo potential, very strong CQC capability, but very risky given the lack of survivability. And outside of that kind of conditional methadone that's baked into Stimulus. Right, that's a lot that we've said about Riotguard, lads. I'm going to pick up the coil pistol here. We're going to jump into a run and just start playing around with some of these effects. There's a lot to go through here, guys, so please bear with me. It is late. I have... This has gone on now for a good 50 minutes. So let's run through and really have a look at some of these really cool combos that you can apply. So here we are. We have taken the focus perk that's going to give us calm, which is really good because we're going to need that. And let's just run right in here. Let's toggle it so you can first see here. It's toggleable. We've toggled the shield. Now we can dash in over there, hit our Battlecry module, dash in, Battlecry, and get rid of them. Now remember, if I press the shield again, I can deal even more damage. So I'm going to dash in, and I press the shield there. You can see I did a bash on the enemies as I hit them. So lots of cool combos here. Now I press it, right click again. I take the shield down. It goes in a 3-second cooldown. And take it back up. This is when I want a bit more mobility. I do think you're going to end up having your shield up most of the time, though. Just because of the directional armor that it gives you and the fact the class doesn't have it. It's good that we're getting our health back here. So, shield up, dash in, and we do a Battlecry module, and that pretty much wipes out everyone except for that guy. We've taken him out as well. We're moving around with the shield. It is a bit slow, as you can see, the 25%. We do have additional recoil and I think, not recoil, but maybe deviation. Here's more enemies. Dash in, do that, run in, shield bash him. We're getting shot now. We've got to get away, and you can see the amount of damage we end up taking. And we're going to just get rid of our shield to get away from them. We're going to get them all stacked together. Go in, shield bash this guy, and he's down. We've got the Battlecry module. We'll hit that, stun them, and get rid of them. Oh, get that back. Now you can see the amount of health on kill. We're just going to dance around here for a second while we're doing this. So we're getting our health back here, but you'll see when we kill this wheel gun here, we're going to get 100 health back. Take some damage. Ooh, damn. Oh, we took a lot of damage there, boys. Don't know what hit us. Oh, man. I'm just going to get the hell out of here. Whew. Man, crazy. Okay, let's try getting to a safe spot here and then take them out when they get near. Shield up. Oh. Oh. Oh, close, lads, close. But you can see over there the massive combo potential. We had a whole raft of enemies following us there, lads, but we were able to take them out. And you can see there just exactly what I was talking about. The challenges with having no blue shield and having no methadone in place, right? If you get caught out in a bad position while you're trying to apply a combo, say you have like a ranked enemy behind you and he just pumps you with lead, you are going to die really, really quickly. So this class is going to take a lot of getting used to, especially for your run-of-the-mill Riotguard players who are very used to a different type of playstyle and are a lot more survivability in their Riotguard class. So let's do this over here. Get in there. Shoot them down. Apply the damage over there. See, we're getting swarmed here. We're going to hit again. And we got rid of everybody there. And you can see the damage potential there, lads. You get a whole bunch of enemies together and you hit them with that shield. You dash in with the shield and you hit them with a shield bash. That's a lot of damage. There we go again. And all this time, when you're killing enemies one by one, you are getting 100 health back. So that is the survivability. But like I said, that big group of enemies we killed, we didn't see 600 health come back to us. And that's because of that little hidden, I'd say, cooldown on the Stimulus ability. So you can't just get like a massive hit of like 600 health back. So that's the class, lads. Very, very interesting. Very different playstyle. A lot more risky, but a lot more powerful than what it was before. I really like it. I'm going to give it a go. I'm sure it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea in the end of the day. But guys, however you do feel about it, do play with it. Because this new toggleable shield is really, really awesome. And I do love the fact that there's that directional indicator of where are you getting the directional shielding or the armor from. Really, really cool. Lots of little cool things like that in this update. But that's pretty much it, lads. I think we've pretty much covered absolutely everything that I wanted to. And that's a much longer video than I thought it was going to be. Like I said, guys, it's a Riotguard Revolution. Up to you to decide whether you like it or whether you want to see, especially the Riotguard, revert back to his usual state. I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. I do want to get these videos out for you as soon as possible. Keep you guys informed about the latest changes. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. If you've really enjoyed it, drop me a subscribe. If you didn't like it, leave me a dislike. Let me know what I can do better. I've been Flash Hazardous with another episode looking at the class updates. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, lads. Flash out.